Welcome in, everyone, to another special edition of AYA Sports. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. We're here with our good friends over at Service Hawk Digital Media, where they soar above the competition. If you're needing expert marketing for HVAC, electrical pros, generator pros, you need to go over to servicehawk.io. See, Lee had to get on to me about me kept saying .com. It's not .com. Servicehawk.io. We have been here for a while. Most of you know that we come and do these special episodes and editions from Service Hawk. And normally what we do is we'll break down and preview the LSU baseball series that is ahead, but we've already done that because it is a short week. So today we're going to do a little bit something different. Today we're going to be talking about LSU football. Oh, here he goes again. I hope this one's not negative. It's not. But today I want to talk about before we get into this, everybody do us a favor too, by the way, hit the like and share, because I never say that when we come in here. Everyone do us a favor, like button, share button, comment button, thoughts, questions, concerns. You put them inside that chat. You know what you need to do here. We greatly appreciate all of you joining us. But guys, this week there's been a massive perception about going into week one of college football. And I understand that it is, as I look at my watch, May the 15th. And there's a lot that's already being made of going into week one of the college football season. LSU heads to Clemson Saturday night in their Death Valley, not the real Death Valley, but their Death Valley, to take on what might be and probably is, but for sure is, the reigning ACC champions, a team that made it to the first 12-team playoff in the Clemson Tigers. They have a lot that's coming back. But there was something that came out this week. I know that Josh Pate of 247 Sports or CBS came out. He had Clemson at number one. I know that there's already been post-spring polls or post-spring top 25, post-spring top 20s that are coming out. And I think what is getting a little bit real here for some is that Clemson, for most of what it's worth, is in the top, I'll just say top five, but for most of these, the top three going into the season. Now, a guy that a lot of people respect, and Josh Pate, he had Clemson at number one. He had LSU, I think, at 5. But I want to talk about this because I know that we have a long way to go. We have not gotten into fall camp. We have not seen a lot of these transfers from an offensive perspective really take shape in what LSU will be this upcoming season. Like, for example, we have not seen Barian Brown at receiver. We've not seen Nick Anderson at receiver. We've not seen Garrett throwing to Nick Anderson or Barian Brown. We haven't seen Josh Thompson at guard. We haven't seen what this entire offensive line, what the starting five is going to be. We haven't seen Braylon Moore at center. What are you officially going to do at tight end? Do you run a lot of 12 personnel? I do think that a lot of these things can change. And here's the truth. A lot of these things will change going into week one of fall camp. God forbid, and knock on wood, I hope LSU has none of these. But does LSU have a couple of guys banged up going into that game? Does Clemson have a couple of banged up guys going into that game? But there's a couple of things that I want to get to. 3 massive things that I want to get to here to first. Number one, when I look at LSU going into Clemson in week one with everything that's already coming out, preseason polls, preseason hype for Clemson LSU, I think people are asking the question about Clemson because it's been such a massive narrative this week. Blake, why are they in the top 5? Why are they number one? I understand that Cade Klubnik's coming back. They got some really good receivers. But what is everybody seeing when it comes to Clemson? Well, for me, it's not necessarily just their offense. I mean, guys, they got 5 offensive linemen returning. They do have some really young, talented receivers that – guys, in the last game that we saw Clemson go up against the number 1 total defense in passing yards allowed in Texas, and they got exposed. Guys, Texas 1,000% got exposed in that game, especially down the stretch of that game when they started making a push back into that game. Now, I do think that it's a little bit flawed in a way when you go back and watch that game, Clemson versus Texas, mainly due to this. I think Texas played up and down to the level of their opponent every single week. That's why they had to go into overtime versus Arizona State. That's why they're right there with Ohio State. That's why they're almost getting knocked off by Vandy. So many different times Texas throughout the season played close games, even with Clemson, because they just played up and down to the level of their opponent, in my humble opinion. They still exposed the best secondary from a statistical analysis in the SEC, but arguably the number one secondary in the country last year in Texas. A lot of people understand offensively what they can and can't do. Everything that they have coming back from a receiver with Wesco and the boys, with Klubnik. I don't know what they're going to do at running back. I mean, they got a new true freshman that's in there. Maybe they utilize early in the season. Phil Maffa's out. There's a lot of things that we look at Clemson and say, okay, there's a lot of talent there offensively. For me, humbly, when I look at Clemson, it's not necessarily, and we will obviously talk a lot about Clemson leading up to this, but when I look at them, it's not the offensive side that I would be the most intrigued by when looking at them. What I am very intrigued by, if I'm just looking at them from a holistic standpoint, would be this. Guys, on the defensive side of the football, especially in the front seven, they have potentially some high-level NFL dudes. Sammy Brown at linebacker, who came onto the scene late, and I hate to say that a five-star kid came onto the scene late, but made an entirely massive impact in the interior of Clemson's defense at the end of the season. You bring back T.J. Parker. You bring back Peter Woods. You bring in Tom Allen as your DC. Guys, defensively, I think that they could be a lot better than what they were a year ago. And, guys, they're bringing back a lot of talent in their front seven. T.J. Parker had 20 tackles for loss and double-digit sacks a year ago. Can Peter Woods finally live up to the potential of his high school recruiting ranking? Sammy Brown, I believe, is the best linebacker in the ACC, bar none. That front seven has NFL guys in it. And when I look at them in their front seven versus some of the struggles that LSU had a season ago. Uh-oh. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. The struggles that LSU had offensively a season ago, there's only a couple of things for me that there are a couple of things for me that I look at. Guys, I don't know if you're going to be able to go in there in Clemson and be able to run the football. Their front seven is really good. That is a massive area that you struggle in. Now, last year we thought that this team and this offensive line would be able to go in there and really run the rock because of Will Campbell, Emory Jones, and the boys. And, guys, they just couldn't do it. I do think that there were some schematic issues for you in the running game, but I think from a talent aspect, you look at it on paper and say Clemson has so much returning that had high-level production in the ACC that you just start asking yourself the question, if they develop and get better and they're better than they were a year ago, and that what they did a season ago with T.J. Parker having 20 tackles for loss, Cade Klubnik having 40-plus touchdowns. Guys, is that their floor? Is what Clemson did last year with everything that they have returning the floor? If it is the floor, if the floor is what they did a season ago, again, with everything returning, LSU is going into Clemson, South Carolina, and they are matching up in a dogfight. Guys, this is a outright, bona fide week one dogfight. This is like, I would say the same level as what you had a season ago or 2 seasons ago when you went into Orlando and you faced off against Florida State. I don't think that they're that good defensively. I don't think that they have that level of front seven, but they're going to be a really, really good team. Guys, the bona fide fact going into the season is that a lot of people believe that Clemson is going to be not only win the ACC, but can potentially be a top 4 seed in winning the ACC. And I look at the preseason hype, and all of this is just hype. Like, hype is hype. You have it. They have it. And we will find out in August, in late August, what comes of that. But I've seen the talking points. I've seen the conversations that are being had in May, mid-May, middle of baseball season. I've seen the conversations that are being had in reference to that game in week 1. I think a lot of people look at what Clemson did a year ago and say, well, last year they couldn't do this, this, and this. Well, guys, here. So the argument has been when I saw Josh Pate's top 20, when I saw like our buddy Cole Thompson's top 20, when I've seen a lot of these preseason polls, these preseason post-spring hype, I've seen a lot of you say, well, last year they couldn't do X, Y, and Z. And you're right. Last year they couldn't stop the run against Texas. There were a lot of games that they couldn't stop the run to save their life. I'm with you there. I agree that they're going to have to prove that they can be better at stopping the run, especially with you coming in there and a team that struggles to stop the run or to run the football. Well, and stop the run too, but to run the football. I look at them and say to myself that, guys, this is not a year ago. I don't think that you can go into – so to everybody that's saying that, I don't go into a season unless I visibly have seen it with my eyes. I don't visibly go into a season saying that I think a team's going to be worse. I don't think you're going to be worse than 8-4. I don't even think you're going to be 8-4. I don't think that. I think you're better than you. Clearly, I think that you're better than you were a year ago. It's safety at edge. I think you as a team, you're overall better than you were a season ago. Does that mean you get 2 more wins? I don't know. But I look at Clemson and say the same exact thing. Look, Daboswinney, there's a lot that's been made of him. A lot made about Dabo and who he's been the last couple of seasons and the NIL talks and all that. Guys, Dabo's still a really good coach. He's still a damn good coach that you got to go into his hometown. I say hometown. You got to go into his home and try to take a game from him. I understand the justification. So I say all that to say I understand the justification by some in reference to them being one of the top teams in the country, if not the top team. I could see the justification. For me and someone who does a national college football show, I don't have Clemson at number 1. I would have them in my top 5. Like I really believe in Penn State for what it's worth. I fully believe in Penn State going into the season, and I can be wrong there. But they also have a lot returning. But there's also a couple of things that LSU can do because they're going to have to do because they're going into a hostile environment. There was a report that came out this week, and not necessarily like through social media, but I was sent a report this week in reference to this offense, LSU's offense. You know, well, they've been working out together. They have been throwing the ball around with one another, the receivers, the quarterbacks, and everybody. Guys, no, they haven't. No, they haven't. I think LSU, if they're going to take the next step, if they're going to be a 10-win team in the regular season, they have got to start. They have got to start right now when they get back, when they come back around sometime mid next week. They got to hit the ground running in the weight room, on the practice field without the coaches. June and July has got to be massive, massive months for this offense and defense, and they got to go out there and take it to them. Guys, the preparation, you guys, you are not that far away from having to go into camp, go into Clemson, and the season starting. I will say this. This is a make or break year in a lot of ways for a lot of you. In reference to if you lose week 1 and you lose another season opener, I can only imagine the talking points that from a national perspective, I can only imagine the talking points of what we're going to have, because they're going to have, I don't know if this is necessarily me reporting this, because I saw the report this week about, this team's been in Baton Rouge working out with one another. No, they have not been. No, they have not been. And if anyone wants to go toe-to-toe with the sourcing part of that, I will go toe-to-toe. I mean, it's not that hard to find. I mean, you have these young men on Instagram, Snapchat. They're not in Baton Rouge. They're legitimately not. Like Harold Perkins is out working out in Texas. You got a couple of other guys working out in Texas, which there's nothing wrong with that. Go and work. Put in the work. But to say that they were in Baton Rouge working out with one another is not true. I do think, for what it's worth, offensively, the receivers, the new receivers, Nick Anderson, Barian Brown, even Destin Hill, but Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton, guys, I pray that those guys are inseparable this summer. I pray that they are working their ever-living asses off to make and take that next step. Guys, the offensive line, they gotta have a massive offseason too. And look, I know that this seems and sounds and you feel that and this show has been negative. Guys, we're not being negative. There comes a point in time where you can sit here and say that I'm being negative, or that I'm, Blake just, for whatever reason, he doesn't like this, he doesn't like that, he doesn't like this. He's trying to sell negativity. Guys, you have got people and media personalities that are out there that have zero affiliation with LSU. Zero. None. Zilch. Nada. That are putting Clemson as a top 2, top 3 team. That think that they are a bona fide playoff team. That think that LSU is going to go into Clemson and lose. And I feel it. I see it. And I want to hit this third point before we get out of here. I do think that there are some areas that you're better than them in. I do think from a collective overall point, I think that you're better than them at edge, even though they have TJ Parker as a collective unit. I think you can be better at them. I think you might be better than them at corner. I think that you might be overall better. And I know this is a stretch because they have a lot of production. I think you might be overall better than them at receiver. I 100% believe that you're better than them at running back and at tight end. The question becomes, though, with them, can you run the football when you need to? Because I don't think that you can go in there and throw the ball around and beat them. You're going to have to establish the running game, and you're going to have to prove that you can run the ball, but you're going to have to prove that you could stop the run too. Because Klubnik will pull it, Klubnik will run, and he will make you look like a fool. The last game that K. Klubnik played, Clemson's quarterback, guys, if he's making the front seven of Texas look foolish in moments, he can make you look that same way. Now, the last time that K. Klubnik went up against Patrick Payton wasn't a great day for K. Klubnik in some situations, but I've seen the hype. I've seen the I've seen the talking points, and I understand we're in mid-May, right? Like, I understand that we're in a situation where, Blake, we're in the heart of baseball season, but I see it, I feel it, and this is such a critical year that when you look at this team and we have a lot of expectations, I'm not telling you, and I've not come out here once and said this, I am not telling you to pump the brakes on these expectations that you have for Brian Kelly and this team. A lot of money was spent. What I'm saying is, you got to look at some of these other teams that we have on the schedule, especially Clemson. And look, if you go in there and win, I think that you're going to make the playoff. It is that massive of a game. It is arguably one of the, I feel like every time we get in these big game situations, it's one of the biggest games in the Brian Kelly era, because, guys, every time that you lose them, it becomes even bigger. Can you get over that hump? Brian Kelly said last year, we'll see in the national title. Well, you get to prove that week one. You get to prove week one that you are good enough to go on the road in a hostile environment and win at night. It's going to be electric. I don't know how else to really word any of this when we go into May and we're not in fall camp and there's not a lot going on from a football perspective. All I would say is this. I understand personally, I think that some of these guys are right in reference to what they've been saying. Now, saying about Clemson, you go in there and beat them week one, you send a massive statement. And you got to gain some of this confidence. So we'll see. All right. Service Hawk Digital Media, Service Hawk Digital Marketing, where they soar above the competition. Thank you to Lee, Justin, and the gang for allowing us to come in here and do another special edition. Until soon, until tonight, really, when we do a post game for LSU baseball. We'll see you then. Y'all have a good day. Stay blessed.